Yo, stop scrolling for 30 seconds. Because what I'm about to tell you about Cardi B and Stefon Diggs is not the story everybody else is running with. Everybody on YouTube is screaming the same thing. He's a player. She's a stripper. They deserve each other. Blah, blah, blah. Cool. That's the lazy take. That's the take your uncle gives at the cookout while he's burning the chicken. That's not why you came here. Because here's what nobody, and I mean nobody, on this app is telling you. There is a hidden contract that just got signed in front of all of us, in plain daylight, at a Mother's Day brunch, and we all watched it happen and clapped like it was cute. It wasn't cute. It was a transaction. And the receipts are sitting right there on Instagram if you know where to look. I'm going to show you the math. I'm going to show you the timeline. And by the end of this video, you're going to look at that photo of them hugged up at that Mother's Day event, and you're going to see something completely different than what you saw this morning. I promise you that. What's good, family? It's your boy back at it again. And today we are dissecting one of the most calculated public reunions I have ever seen in my life. Cardi B and Stefon Diggs. Back together. Boot up. Smiling for the cameras. After he just walked out of a courtroom looking like a free man with the worst reputation in the league. After she publicly washed her hands of him during Super Bowl week when his team got dragged by the Seahawks. After the Mila Adams lawsuit. After the rumored outside kids. After the allegations from gay men that even his own publicist couldn't spin. After all of that, somehow, magically, on Mother's Day weekend, they are back. And the internet is acting like this is a love story. Family, this is not a love story. This is a press release with a hug attached to it. Let me back up. Because to understand why this reunion is engineered, we gotta talk about who Stefon Diggs really is. And I'm not talking about the stat line. I'm not talking about the contracts. I'm talking about the man. The Mila Adams situation was ugly. He won the case. Legally, he is clean. But the court of public opinion does not run on jury instructions. The court of public opinion runs on screenshots. And the screenshots from that case made him radioactive. Multiple alleged children with multiple alleged mothers. Whispers from men. Whispers from women. Whispers from the chef herself. He came out the other side with a verdict, but without a reputation. And in 2026, a reputation is worth more than a verdict. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because while his name was being shredded in tabloid headlines, his next product launch was already on the calendar. His brand activations were already booked. The endorsements were already signed. He needed a counter-narrative, and he needed it yesterday. And the most powerful counter-narrative in entertainment is a redemption arc with a famous woman attached to it. Enter Cardi. Y'all remember when she dropped him during the playoffs? She was done. She was vocal. She was posting cryptic captions. The girls thought she had finally learned her lesson. The men thought she was finally going to date somebody with a 401k and 0 baby mamas. The pundits were writing think pieces. And then, 2 weeks before his next big move drops, suddenly, he is in her Instagram story. Suddenly, his mama is in her Instagram story. Suddenly, his sister is calling Cardi a phenomenal woman in the comments section. Suddenly, there is a Mother's Day brunch, and they are sitting 4 inches apart at a private table with 3 photographers conveniently positioned at the perfect angle. Family, this is not coincidence. This is choreography. But here is the twist that none of the other commentary channels are talking about. And this is the unique angle I want to plant in your brain today. Stefon Diggs is not the architect of this reunion. He is the beneficiary. The architect is somebody else entirely. And once I tell you who, you are not going to be able to unsee it. The architect is Cardi's own brand calendar. Stay with me, because this is where the layers start peeling back. Cardi has a tour coming. Cardi has new music in the pipeline. Cardi has product launches of her own. Cardi has a public split from Offset that emotionally drained her audience and made them tired of the drama. Her brand was sliding into that dangerous zone where the same people who used to defend her were starting to roll their eyes. The girls were saying she chose this. The men were saying she keeps choosing this. The algorithm was punishing her for being predictable. She needed a plot twist too. And a plot twist requires a co-star. Now look at it from her side. If she comes back swinging with a song about being hurt, the audience is tired. They have heard that record before. Be Careful was a decade ago. Up was 3 years ago. The Wounded Woman lane is saturated, and she does not own it anymore. SZA owns it. Summer Walker owns it. Even Doja decided that lane was too crowded and ran in a different direction. Cardi cannot release another I'm Hurting record and expect the streaming numbers to hit. The market is closed. But what is open? What is wide open? The fairy tale. The reformed bad boy. The man who got dragged through the courts and the tabloids and emerged a changed person because the right woman finally saw something in him that nobody else could. That story has been on sale since the beginning of time, and the market never tires of it. Pretty Woman ran on it. Beauty and the Beast ran on it. Half of country music runs on it. And Cardi just bought a controlling share in it. That is why she let him back in. Not because she forgave him. Not because the heart wants what it wants. But because the heart of her brand wants what her brand needs. And her brand needs a fresh story. And Stefon Diggs at this exact moment is the cheapest, juiciest, most marketable storyline on the open market. He gets to launder his image through her star power. She gets to launder her brand through his redemption. Both of them get to print money on the back end. Tour numbers go up. Endorsements come back. Streaming spikes. The algorithm starts feeding both of them again. And we, the audience, get to watch the show and pay the cover charge with our attention. That is the deal. That is the contract. And the photo for Mother's Day is the signature page. But here is the next layer. Because nothing in this story is happening by accident. Let's talk about the timing of Stefon Diggs' Instagram. Right before this reunion went public, certain posts vanished. Certain followers got cleaned out. A new aesthetic appeared. Softer colors. Family imagery. A caption about wanting to feel real instead of performative. Family. When a grown man in 2026 starts posting captions about real versus performative, that is a public relations operation. That is not a man going through a spiritual awakening. That is a man running a campaign. And the campaign needed a queen on the chessboard. Cardi knew it. He knew it. Their teams knew it. Even his mama knew it. Because go check her account. The day before the Mother's Day brunch, she posted 3 photos of Cardi from years ago, with captions that read like a Hallmark card. That was not spontaneous warmth. That was a coordinated reintroduction. A public relations rollout. A family endorsement on a 4-day delay schedule, designed to make the eventual reunion feel inevitable instead of suspicious. Now compare this to how Offset's family treated her. Where were the soft glamour shots of Cardi from his mother's account? Where were the public endorsements? Where were the heart emojis in her comments? They were not there. Because Offset's family never had a brand strategy. They had drama. And drama, while entertaining, is not bankable past a certain point. Stefon Diggs' family, on the other hand, learned from Offset's mistakes. They watched the entire Migos saga play out, and they took notes. They saw what happens when you let the streets dictate your son's public image. They saw what happens when his mother is in his comments instead of in his marketing meetings. And they pivoted. This is what nobody is saying out loud. The Diggs family ran a tighter campaign than most political consultants. Down to the lighting in the photos. Down to the seating at the brunch. Down to the caption length on the comments. Everything was calibrated. Everything was rehearsed. Everything was on brand. And that is exactly why the reunion is going to fail. Yeah, I said it. The reunion is going to fail. And I'm going to tell you the exact month it falls apart. Because here is the cruel arithmetic of celebrity branding. A campaign that is this engineered, this calculated, this perfectly optimized, has a built-in shelf life. The same algorithms that boost a manufactured reunion will turn on it the second it stops generating new content. Manufactured chemistry has a half-life of about 90 days. After 90 days, the audience smells the formaldehyde. After 90 days, the photos start looking staged. After 90 days, the same followers who said "Ah" in May will be saying "We always knew" in August. Watch. And here is the deeper reason it will fail. Cardi is operating from what the older heads call hustle energy. That same energy that took her from the pole to the top of the Billboard Hot 100. That energy is not weak. That energy is not bad. That energy is the reason she has the money she has, the platform she has, the survival instinct she has. But hustle energy and partnership energy are 2 different operating systems running on the same phone, and one of them eventually crashes the other. You cannot run partnership.exe on a phone that is dedicated to running hustle.exe 24 hours a day. Eventually the battery dies. Eventually the screen freezes. Eventually somebody has to do a hard reset. Stefon Diggs is the hard reset. He is not the partner. He is the temporary patch. And the women in the comments who keep saying she deserves better, you are right. She does deserve better. But she is not in the market for better. She is in the market for useful. And right now, he is useful. Useful is not the same as good. Useful is the man who shows up at the brunch with the right family at the right time and helps you sell the right story. Good is the man who shows up at 3 in the morning when you are crying about something you cannot post about. Stefon Diggs cannot do the second one. He has never done the second one. He has receipts from a chef who can prove he has never done the second one. But the country is not interested in good men right now. The country is interested in entertaining men. And Stefon Diggs is entertaining. He has the swagger, the cheekbones, the highlight reel, the bad boy resume. He is a content factory wearing cleats. And in the attention economy, a content factory wearing cleats outperforms a good man wearing a wedding ring every single quarter. That is not an opinion. That is a P&L statement. Pull up the numbers. The good husbands in entertainment are losing the algorithm. The chaos engines are winning the algorithm. Cardi knows this. She runs her business on this. She has never lost money betting on chaos. So she bet on chaos again. And the audience, the same audience that swore they were done with her, the same audience that said they would never stream another song of hers if she got back with somebody trifling, the same audience that wrote essays about emotional intelligence in their group chats, is going to watch every single second of this reunion. They are going to tune in. They are going to argue in the comments. They are going to make TikToks. They are going to drive the engagement that drives the streaming numbers that drive the bag. Cardi knows that audience better than they know themselves. The audience does not control Cardi. Cardi controls the audience. That is the whole game. Now let me zoom out. Because this story is not really about Cardi and Stefon. This story is about a pattern that is bigger than both of them. Look at the last 5 years of high-profile reunions in entertainment. Look at how many of them happen exactly 2 weeks before a product launch. Look at how many of them happen exactly 1 month before a tour announcement. Look at how many of them happen the same week a documentary drops. The pattern is so obvious it should be embarrassing. But it works. Every time. The audience pretends to be shocked. The audience pretends to be invested. The audience pretends to be heartbroken when it inevitably ends. And then the audience does it all over again the next quarter with the next couple. This is the business model. The relationship is the merch. The breakup is the next season. The reunion is the spinoff. And every emotional beat is monetized somewhere on a quarterly earnings report you will never see. So the next time somebody asks you if you think Cardi and Stefon are going to last, the right answer is, that is not the question. The right question is, what are they selling, and when does the campaign end? Because the answer to that question is in the data. The answer to that question is in the release calendar. The answer to that question is in the metadata of the Mother's Day post itself, which, by the way, was geotagged at a private venue that just happens to be owned by an investor who has a stake in one of Stefon Diggs's upcoming business ventures. Go check. I'll wait. And here is the part that is going to hurt some feelings. The same people in the comments who keep saying she deserves better, you are the customer. You are the audience that this entire campaign was designed for. You are the demographic that was studied in a focus group somewhere. You are the persona on a marketing deck. The deck says, women, 25 to 44, emotionally invested in Cardi, fatigued by Offset, sympathetic to redemption narratives, high engagement on relationship content. That is you. That is the avatar. They built this entire reunion for you. And you clapped. And then you bought the next thing they sold you. That is not weakness. That is just how attention works in this country. We have all been there. I have been there. Nobody is above the algorithm. But here is the upgrade. Once you see the machinery, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand that the relationship is the product, you start watching differently. You start seeing the camera angles. You start noticing the captions. You start tracking the timing. You start asking, what is being released this month? Who is suddenly in whose Instagram story? Whose mama is suddenly posting throwback photos? Whose family is suddenly sending heart emojis? And once you start asking those questions, the whole entertainment industry starts looking like one big puppet show where the strings are visible if you tilt your head the right way. That is the gift this Cardi and Stefon situation is giving us, if we are willing to take it. It is not a love story. It is a textbook. It is a free seminar on how the celebrity machine actually runs in 2026. And if you take notes, you can apply this lens to every single high-profile couple for the rest of your life. You will never be fooled again. You will save yourself 100 hours of comment section arguments. You will save yourself the parasocial heartbreak when they inevitably split. And when the split comes, you will not be sad. You will be early. You will be the one in the comments saying I told you in May. And the algorithm will reward you for being right, because being right early is the highest currency on this platform. Now let me get even more specific. Because I want to give you the timeline. I want to give you the prediction. I want to put my reputation on the line right here in this video, so when it happens you come back and you say he called it. Here is the prediction. Cardi and Stefon are going to look extremely happy for the next 45 to 60 days. Expect a couple's photo shoot. Expect a joint interview. Expect a song feature, a brand deal, possibly a fragrance, definitely a viral TikTok of them dancing together in matching outfits. Expect Mama Diggs to show up in at least 3 more Instagram stories. Expect Offset to be subtweeted at least twice. Expect a vacation. Expect a yacht. Expect the yacht photos to leak conveniently the same week as a new single. Then, around day 75, expect the first crack. A blurry photo of Stefon at a club. A receipt from a hotel. An ambiguous DM from another woman that somebody screenshots and sends to a blog. The blog will post it. Cardi will say nothing. Diggs will say nothing. The internet will speculate for 2 weeks. Around day 90, expect a cryptic Instagram caption from Cardi. A solo photo shoot in something black. A new song teaser. A line in the song that sounds like it might be about him, but could also be about Offset, because the ambiguity is the point. The ambiguity sells 2 records at once. One to the people rooting for her to leave. One to the people rooting for her to stay. Around day 110, the split is public. The headlines write themselves. The tabloids feast. The comment sections explode. The same people who said she deserves better will be back in formation. The Mila Adams story will be rehashed. The Offset story will be rehashed. The whole cycle will start over. Except by then, the product launches will have happened, the tour will have sold out, the brand deals will have cleared escrow, and Stefon will be on to his next chapter with his image rinsed clean enough to keep cashing checks. The reunion will have served its purpose. The contract will have been honored. Everybody at the top of the org chart will be paid. And we, the audience, will be exactly where we started, except a little more cynical, a little more entertained, and a little more addicted to the next episode. That is the cycle. That is the business. That is what we are really watching when we watch Cardi and Stefon hug up at brunch on Mother's Day. Now I want to slow down for a second, because somebody in the comments is already typing, "You sound bitter, you sound jealous, you sound like you hate women." Let me kill that thought right now. I do not hate Cardi. I do not even hate Stefon. I respect the hustle on both sides. Cardi pulled herself out of the most aggressive financial deficit you can imagine. She built a brand from nothing. She put her family on. She pays her bills. She runs her business. And she does it on her own terms. That is not a small thing. That is a kind of genius that most people will never understand, because most people have never had to manufacture themselves from scratch with no safety net underneath them. Cardi did that. Cardi is doing that. Cardi will be doing that long after this reunion ends. And Stefon ran routes in the cold for 10 years, took hits that would put most of us in a wheelchair, made his name on third down catches in stadiums full of people screaming for his failure, and built a financial empire while doing it. The man is not lazy. The man is not unskilled. The man is, by any reasonable measure, in the top half of 1% of athletic and financial achievement in his generation. So no, I am not hating. I am explaining. There is a difference. What I am doing is what nobody else is doing, which is treating both of these adults as the powerful, calculating, sophisticated operators that they actually are, instead of treating them like helpless characters in somebody else's fairy tale. The respectful thing, the actual respectful thing, is to give them credit for being smart enough to run a play this clean. Not to wring our hands and say, "Oh, she fell for it again. Oh, he tricked her." Nobody got tricked. 2 adults walked into a brunch with their teams briefed and their angles agreed on, and they walked out with the trending tab in their pocket. That is not a tragedy. That is a chess match. And right now, both of them are still on the board. Let me also be honest about something the streets do not want to hear. There is a version of this story where the reunion sticks. There is a small, real, non-zero probability that the contract becomes a marriage, the marriage becomes a family, the family becomes a brand that lasts. And 20 years from now, we are watching their kids host a podcast about growing up rich and chaotic. That world exists. I am not pretending it does not. The reason I am betting against it is not because love cannot survive fame. Love can survive a lot. The reason I am betting against it is the engineering. When the foundation is laid this fast, With this much logistics, on this kind of public timeline, the cracks usually show up before the cement dries. That is not a moral judgment. That is structural engineering. Buildings built in a weekend tend to fall in a weekend. Buildings built over a decade tend to last a decade. And here is the other thing nobody wants to admit. The people in the cheap seats screaming at Cardi to leave him. The same people calling Stefon a pookie. Those people are not watching this for her benefit. They are watching for theirs. They are watching because every public failure she has makes them feel smarter about their own choices. Every time she goes back to a man who is not ready for her, the comment section gets a little dopamine hit, because secretly they know the man they are sleeping next to is not ready for them either. And at least Cardi's mess is louder than their mess. That is the dirty secret of celebrity gossip. We do not actually want our favorites to win. We want them to lose just enough that we feel okay about not winning ourselves. That is parasocial economics. That is the engine. And once you see that engine, you cannot pretend you do not see it. Now let me bring in another character that everybody is sleeping on. The other woman in this whole story. Not Mila Adams. Not the alleged baby mama. Not Offset's situationship. I am talking about the publicist. The publicist nobody is naming. The publicist sitting in the back of every meeting drawing the diagrams. The publicist who looked at Stefon's reputation after that lawsuit and said, "Sir, we are going to need a public romantic anchor in the next 90 days or your brand value is going to fall off a cliff." The publicist who looked at Cardi's metrics post Offset and said, "Sister, we need a redemption arc featuring somebody who is not him, ideally somebody with crossover sports appeal, ideally before tour announcement, ideally in time for Mother's Day weekend, because that headline window prints money." The publicist is the real boss of this whole movie. The publicist is the director. The publicist is the unseen architect, and the publicist always gets paid first. You want to know who runs this country? It is not who you think. It is not the politicians. It is not the CEOs. It is the publicists. The people who decide which photo leaks on what Wednesday, who gets seated next to whom at the gala, whose mama posts what throwback on which holiday. These people shape the emotional weather of the entire nation, and they do it without ever showing their face. Cardi and Stefon are the front of house. The publicist is the kitchen. And the kitchen is where the meal actually gets made. Pay attention to the kitchen. That is the lesson. Let me give you one more layer before I wrap, because this is the layer that is going to live in your brain for the rest of the week. Watch what Stefon's social media does in the next 7 to 10 days. Specifically, watch his stories. Not his grid. Not his captions. His stories. Because his stories are where the next product launch is going to peek through. There will be a casual shot of a logo, a glimpse of a bottle, a frame of a sneaker, a 2-second clip of him in a hoodie that is not currently for sale. That is the soft launch. That is the trigger I have been telling you about. The reunion was the warm-up. The product is the headline act. And if you watch the stories closely, you are going to catch the warm-up to the warm-up. Same goes for Cardi. Watch her studio posts. Watch her snippet drops. Watch the comments she leaves under other people's posts. Watch the artists who suddenly follow her this week who did not follow her last week. Every one of those moves is a breadcrumb. Every one of those breadcrumbs leads to the calendar that is about to drop. By the time the calendar is officially announced, the smart fans are already at the merch store. The casual fans are still arguing about whether she should have taken him back. That gap between when the smart fans know and when the casual fans figure it out is where the money is made. That gap is the entire reason this manufactured reunion exists. Close the gap. Beat the casuals. Get ahead of the rollout. That is how you play the meta. That is how you stop being prey on this platform and start being a player on it. And here is the last thing I want to leave you with, because this is the part that matters more than any prediction I just made. The lesson is not about Cardi. The lesson is not about Stefon. The lesson is about you. Because every time you participate in one of these manufactured relationship cycles, every time you let yourself get emotionally invested in two strangers whose entire chemistry is being orchestrated by a marketing department, you are spending a currency that you cannot get back. You are spending attention. And attention is the most expensive thing you own in 2026. More expensive than money. More expensive than time. Because where your attention goes, your money and your time follow within 90 days. Always. Without fail. That is the rule. So if your attention is going toward Cardi and Stefon's fake hug at brunch, then in 90 days, your money and your time will be going toward whatever they are selling. The tour ticket. The fragrance. The streaming subscription that keeps queuing up her songs. The pay-per-view fight he is going to do for charity that is not actually for charity. The reality show that does not exist yet, but is going to be announced any minute now. They are not just selling you a relationship. They are selling you a funnel. And the funnel has at least 6 monetization points stacked inside it. Each one time to drop right when your emotional investment is at its peak. That is the architecture. That is the trap. And the only way out of the trap is to see it for what it is and decide consciously whether you want to keep funding it. Some of you will. And that is okay. Entertainment is entertainment. There is nothing wrong with paying for a good show. Just know that is what you are paying for. Not love. Not chemistry. Not destiny. A show. A very expensive, very well-produced, very tightly written, multi-platform serialized show with a recurring lead cast, a rotating villain, a Mother's Day reunion special, and a season finale already on the books for around Labor Day. I am tapping in for the season finale. Are you? Drop your prediction in the comments. Tell me what month you think they crash out. Tell me who you think writes the first diss. Tell me who is going to drop the better song after the breakup. Because somebody is going to drop a song. That is the one thing I can promise you with absolute certainty. The reunion will end. The song will come. The cycle will continue. And we will be right back here, you and me, dissecting the next chapter, the next photo, the next manufactured moment of made-for-television love. If you made it this far, you already know what to do. Smash that subscribe button. Hit the bell. Share this video with the friend who is still in denial. Send it to the homegirl who keeps defending her favorite trifling man. Send it to the homeboy who keeps falling for the same kind of woman. Send it to your group chat. Send it to your mama. Because this is the kind of game tape that changes how you watch the rest of your life. I am out. Stay sharp out here. Stay early in the comments. And never, ever trust a hug that drops the same week as a press release. I will see you in the next one. One more thing before I go, because I know somebody in the comments is going to type, well, what if they really do love each other? What if you are wrong? What if this is real? So let me address that right now. Love is real. Love between famous people is also real. But love between famous people who have access to the same publicists, the same management firms, the same marketing teams, and the same release calendars is not just love. It is love plus logistics. And once logistics enter the room, the love does not get to be the main character anymore. The love becomes a feature in a larger product. That does not mean it is fake. It means it is leveraged. And leveraged love is a different animal than the love you have with somebody who lives in a one-bedroom apartment and has to ask off work to take you to dinner. Cardi and Stefon might really love each other. I am not denying that. But the version of their love that we are being sold, the brunch version, the Instagram story version, the matching outfits version, that version is curated. That version is edited. That version has a publicist standing 6 feet off camera. And whenever you are being sold a curated version of anything, you are paying full retail for a product that costs them almost nothing to manufacture, because the raw materials are emotions that we, the audience, supply for free. We are the ones paying for this love story. With our attention, with our streams, with our comments, with our outrage, with our defense, with our parasocial loyalty. They are not paying for anything except the catering bill at the brunch, and they probably wrote that off as a business expense too. Look it up. Brunch was on the books. Mother's Day reunion was on the budget. Hug was in the script. Reconciliation was in the calendar. And we, the audience, were the unpaid extras in our own emotional manipulation. But knowing that does not have to make you cynical. It can make you free. Because once you understand that you are the most valuable asset in the entertainment economy, you start charging for your attention. You start asking, is this worth my time? You start saying no to the manufactured moments and yes to the real ones. You start dating differently. You start watching differently. You start scrolling differently. You start spending your emotional currency only on things and people and stories that pay you back with something other than another cycle of the same thing. That is the freedom in this whole conversation. Not gossip, not drama, not the next prediction. The freedom. The freedom to see the strings and decide whether to keep watching the puppet show or to walk out of the theater and write your own story. Because while Cardi and Stefon are running their campaign, you can be running yours. While they are leveraging their love, you can be building yours. While they are selling a manufactured Mother's Day brunch to 20 million followers, you can be having a real Tuesday breakfast with somebody who who has never once needed a press release to prove they care about you. That is the win. That is the actual headline of this whole episode, if anybody is brave enough to print it. The real flex in 2026 is not being in a famous relationship. The real flex is being in a private one. The real flex is not being on the magazine cover. The real flex is being unbothered enough to not need the magazine cover. The real flex is dating somebody who would not survive 5 minutes of public scrutiny because their love language is built for one person and one person only, not for a camera, not for a fan base, not for a brand deal. So watch Cardi and Stefon if you want. Enjoy the show. Make the popcorn. Drop the comments. Run the predictions. I will be doing it with you. But also, in the middle of all that, build something real off camera. Build it slow. Build it boring. Build it nobody can monetize. Because the moment it can be monetized, it stops being yours. And the moment it stops being yours, it starts being theirs. And once they own it, you become the customer of your own life. And nobody, not me, not Cardi, not Stefon, not the algorithm, deserves to be the customer of their own life. Be the owner. Run the campaign. Live the story. Off the grid. Off the timeline. Off the record. Before I close this all the way out, I want to give you the last receipt. The one that tied this whole investigation together for me. Pull up the Mother's Day photo one more time. Look at where Cardi's right hand is. Look at where Stefon's left hand is. Notice how their fingers are not actually interlocked. Notice how her body weight is angled slightly away from his, even while she is smiling. Notice how her eyes are looking at the camera and not at him. That is not how a woman who is in love with her man poses for a private photo. That is how a woman who is on the clock poses for a publicity photo. The body language is doing one thing while the smile is doing another. And the camera, this is the part that matters. The camera captures both. The smile sells the story to the casual viewer. The body language sells the truth to anybody paying attention. And right now, we, you and me, family, we are the ones paying attention. We are the ones who can see both layers. Which means we are the ones who get to decide whether to keep buying the story or whether to start telling our own. Tell your own. Build your own. Be your own. And the next time somebody slides a manufactured Mother's Day brunch into your feed, just smile, screenshot it, send it to the homie, and keep moving. Because you already know the ending. You read the script. You saw it coming.